Heartwarming truth revealed, Maid's incredible hidden journey exposes unexpected bond with child. Every morning, before the sun peeked over the horizon, Maria rose with the quiet determination of a warrior. Her humble home, tucked away in a modest Ohio neighborhood, was not much, but it was a haven for her 8-year-old son, David. Maria knew the sacrifices involved in making a life in America, especially after losing her husband to the horrors of war. Every sweep of her mop, every scrub of a floor, was infused with her love for David. She worked as a maid in the upscale Hartman residence, where her diligence was often overlooked, but the whispers of her strength traveled beyond the polished floors. Lily, the Hartman's 9-year-old daughter, floated through life like a butterfly trapped behind glass. Her parents, wrapped in their own world of business and social obligations, often neglected her cries for connection. But when Maria slipped into the house each morning, something magical happened. The walls echoed with laughter as she shared stories of far-off lands and brave heroes with the wide-eyed girl. "What if unicorns really do exist?" Maria would whisper, and Lily's eyes sparkled with a sense of hope and wonder she rarely felt at home. These moments wore the simplicity of happiness, but they were a balm to Maria's heart, too, allowing her to forget, even for a moment, the shadows of her own struggles. But lurking in the background of their beautiful bond was the heavy darkness of Maria's undocumented status, a secret churning inside her like a tempest. One fateful afternoon, a snide comment from a neighbor during a casual exchange unveiled her truth. The air grew cold, a palpable tension descended, and Maria's heart sank. The threat of deportation loomed large. What would happen to David without her? That thought made each beat of her heart feel like a terrifying drumroll. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As whispers turned into heated discussions among neighbors, a wave of community support emerged for Maria. Her struggle began to humanize her in the eyes of those who had once looked down upon her. Yet, within the Hartman family, tensions rose too. Mr. Hartman was caught in the storm of judgments, questioning everything he once believed about those who served them. Days blurred into nights. Maria found solace in Lily's laughter, but the uncertainty curled around her heart. One evening, at a neighborhood meeting, emotions ran high. Children fidgeted, sensing the tension crackling in the air. Mr. Hartman addressed the group, a conflicted man wrestling with his own biases, when Maria stood up, her spirit ablaze with courage. She spoke from the heart, revealing how their lives had intertwined in ways they had never realized. "I'm not just a maid, I'm a mother, just like you," she declared. What followed was a moment of silence as the crowd processed her words, a collective breath held in anticipation. Could they move past preconceptions? The air was thick with hope and doubt, leaving everyone wondering if this fragile moment could lead to understanding or further divide. As Maria finished, her eyes locked onto Mr. Hartman's, a spark ignited. Would they find common ground, or be lost forever in the tide of prejudice? The community leaned in, breathless and anxious, waiting for the next chapter of their lives to unfold. The silence hung heavy in the air, a fragile moment poised on the edge of change. Maria's heart raced, her pulse pounding in her ears as she awaited Mr. Hartman's response. Every eye in the room was on him, an electric charge filling the space like a thunderstorm brewing. Mr. Hartman shifted on his feet, the lines on his face deepening as he wrestled with the weight of her words. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, it seemed as if time stood still. But then, he took a deep breath, the air escaping his lips with visible effort. "You're right, Maria," he began, his voice steady yet soft. "You're not just a maid, you're part of our lives." Gasps rippled through the crowd, the balance shifting as the tension morphed into something tentative and hopeful. Neighbors who had previously whispered behind closed doors now exchanged glances, their expressions a mixture of surprise and contemplation. Maybe we've been too quick to judge, a woman in the back murmured, her voice shaky but earnest. We all have stories, don't we? Lily, hiding behind her father's leg, peeked out. Her eyes sparkled with renewed hope, as if feeling the promise of change blooming in the air. Maria caught the little girl's gaze and smiled, a bond solidified in that glance, two souls buoyed by one another's presence amidst a storm of uncertainty. As the meeting continued, the discussion shifted from Maria's immigration status to the importance of compassion and understanding in their community. The dialogue flowed into stories of their own struggles, small victories shared and connections forged. Each anecdote seemed to chip away at prejudice, creating a tapestry of vulnerability that enveloped the room. But as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and lavender, Maria felt a familiar heaviness settle back into her stomach. This newfound acceptance could vanish just as swiftly. What if the support turned to fleeting sympathy? The shadows of doubt crept back in. Kids played outside, laughter punctuated the night, but Maria could only think of David. What would he do if she was suddenly ripped away from him? The very thought tightened her throat. The laughter of Lily seemed to echo in her mind, and she fought back tears, knowing that beneath that joy was a reality both of them faced. As the meeting wrapped up, Mr. Hartman approached her, eyes earnest and contemplative. I want to help you, Maria. There must be a way we can work together to secure your status here. The sincerity in his voice was like a small light in the encroaching darkness. Yet, that flicker of hope propelled a wave of anxiety, for Maria knew well that reality could flip the script at any moment. With a tentative smile, she nodded, words caught in her throat. As she stepped outside, the cool evening air brushed against her skin. Other parents were gathering their children, talking excitedly about small celebrations planned for next week. Maria felt a pang of longing wash over her. Back home, David was waiting, his innocent eyes full of trust and love. It was everything she fought for, but now, that fight felt heavier than ever. Could she truly keep her promise to him? The night was filled with possibilities, but tethered to every dream was the looming reality of her status. Could their fragile bond withstand the storms of life that surely lay ahead? And as Maria walked towards her little house, shadows of uncertainty clouded her heart, leaving her with one burning question: would the strength of a community be enough to protect what she held dear? The streetlights flickered on, casting a warm glow over the path Maria walked. She could hear the wind rustling through the trees, but tonight, it felt like an echo of her own swirling thoughts. Each step towards home was a reminder that despite the weight she carried, hope still lingered in the air. Yet, the moment she stepped through the door, that hope flickered. David was curled up on the couch, a book sprawled open on his lap, his small brow furrowed in concentration. Maria held her breath for a moment, watching him. Everything she did was for him, he was her heart, her reason to keep fighting. As if sensing her presence, he glanced up, a grin breaking across his face. Mom! Look, I found the best stories! He exclaimed, his excitement infectious. Maria's heart swelled, and she rushed over, kneeling beside him. What stories, Carino? She asked, running her fingers through his tousled hair. They have dragons and castles and brave knights. David bounced on the couch, his eyes reflecting a world of adventures. She couldn't help but smile. This was the essence of joy, the spark in his eye as he escaped into realms of make-believe, untouched by the harshness of reality that loomed above them. As David eagerly narrated his favorite tale, Maria felt the warmth of his enthusiasm break through her worry. Her fears about the future receded for a moment, replaced by the bittersweet sweetness of his innocence. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, listening intently, but each word felt unmoored, a contrast to the storm in her heart, but that bubble was fragile. The weight of her situation returned, heavy on her chest, and a silence fell over them as David paused, sensing something was off. Are you okay, Mom? He asked, concern painting his little face. Of course, Mijo, she soothed, though her voice trembled slightly. I'm just thinking. It's been a long day. She wrapped her arms around him, holding him close, as if he could somehow anchor her fears. "Do you think we can have a dragon pet?" David asked, his eyes brightening at the possibility. "Maybe one day," Maria chuckled lightly, but inside, the notion crumpled painfully. Earlier, she had held hope that their community was ready to support her. Still, the shadows of uncertainty loomed large, creeping into her thoughts like dark clouds threatening rain. She broke their embrace to retrieve a blanket, draping it over both of them. With David nestled under her arm, she felt a flicker of resolve. Would it be enough if she pushed forward, not just for her but for him? As they continued to read, Maria couldn't shake the feeling of change in the air, a tension brewing beneath the surface. It wasn't just about the support of the community, it was about how far she was willing to go to protect her son. What would she do if the tide turned, if all the hope that had settled in the room earlier evaporated into doubt and fear? Just then, a knock echoed from the front door, jolting them both out of their comfortable cocoon. Maria's heart raced. Who could it be at this hour? As she exchanged glances with David, a quick decision sparked within her. Should she answer it or hope it was nothing? The question lingered, heavy with potential. "Stay here," Maria instructed, her voice steady but her heart thumping loudly. She carefully moved towards the door, every step a dance with uncertainty. As she turned the knob, every possibility of hope and fear surged within her. What awaited her on the other side? Would the answer unravel the threads of stability she so desperately sought to cling to, or would it weave a new path altogether? And as she pulled the door open, the world outside seemed to hold its breath, leaving her with one final thought: was this the moment everything changed? The door creaked open, and Maria's breath caught in her throat. Standing there, silhouetted against the fading light, was Mrs. Thompson, the elderly neighbor who lived 2 houses down. Her frail figure was wrapped in a thick shawl, and her eyes, usually twinkling with mischief, were lined with worry. "Maria. I'm so sorry to bother you at this hour," Mrs. Thompson said, her voice shaky. "But I heard some strange noises coming from the alley behind your house. It's unsettling, and I thought you might want to check." Maria's heart pounded. The last thing she needed was more on her mind. The alley had always felt like a sweet escape, a secret world of cracked concrete and wildflowers. But now, with shadows falling like whispers, it felt threatening. "Are you sure?" Maria asked, glancing back to David, who was peering over the couch with wide eyes. "It could just be some animals." "No, dear. This sounded different. More urgent," Mrs. Thompson insisted, stepping closer. Her voice dropped to a near whisper. "I'm worried someone is in trouble." The urgency in the older woman's face was unmistakable. Maria felt the pull of her own instincts, that familiar tug in her gut to protect and shield David. But could she really venture into the unknown tonight? "Wait here," she said to David, her heart breaking at the thought of leaving him alone. He nodded, but his worry was palpable. She would never forgive herself if something happened. "Let us go check together, okay?" Maria decided. If she was going to face whatever lurked in the shadows, she might as well bring someone who had lived through more than she had. They stepped out onto the porch, into the cool night air, which felt charged with electricity. As they walked to the alley, Maria noticed how the streetlights flickered above, making strange shadows dance along the walls of nearby houses. She could feel David's little hand squeezing hers tightly, his presence a grounding force amid the rising tension. "Mom, do you think something bad is happening?" he whispered, his voice quivering just enough to pull at her heart. "I don't know, Mijo. But if there is, we'll figure it out together," she replied, forcing a smile that felt like a mask over her own fear. The alley loomed before them, a narrow path lined with the rough brickwork of old buildings. As they approached, the sounds grew louder and odd, low murmuring mixed with the rustle of something shifting in the darkness. Maria's heart thudded wildly as they rounded the corner, then she saw it, a small bundle on the ground, wrapped in a crumpled blanket. Her instincts kicked in. What if it was a child? What if someone needed help? She motioned for Mrs. Thompson to stay back and took a tentative step forward. Hello? Is anyone there? She called, her voice shaking slightly. The bundle stirred, and as Maria leaned closer, she caught her breath. It was a little girl, no older than David, with a tear-streaked face peeking out from the blanket. Her eyes were wide and frightened. "Help me," the girl whimpered, reaching out with trembling hands. Maria's heart shattered at the sight. She knelt down, meeting the girl's gaze. "It's okay, sweetie. You're safe now." "What happened?" As the girl began to speak, a wave of realization washed over Maria. This moment, raw and unfiltered, felt monumental. Everything she had faced, her struggle, her fears, they all crumbled in the face of this new reality, but distraction lingered like a storm in the distance. The echoes of uncertainty loomed larger. Before she could utter another word, a deep, disembodied voice echoed from deeper in the alley. "Where do you think you're going?" And just like that, the world she'd fought so hard to protect felt more precarious than ever. Maria could sense the fragile threads of safety beginning to fray once more, and this time, she had no choice but to confront the darkness looming just outside the light. What had she just stepped into? Could she truly protect her son and this girl too? In that moment, everything was on the line. Maria's heart raced as the voice echoed against the bricks, its weight heavy and forbidding. She turned to David, who had gone pale. His small hand gripped hers even tighter, trembling with fear. Mrs. Thompson had taken a cautious step back, her eyes wide with concern. "Stay close to me, David," Maria whispered, her voice trembling despite her efforts to sound steady. The little girl in the blanket clutched the fabric, watching Maria with wide eyes full of fear and hope. "Please help me," the girl said, her voice barely above a whisper. The voice from the darkness spoke again, its tone dripping with menace. "You should leave now. This isn't your business." That chilling command sent shivers down Maria's spine. She couldn't leave. Not now. Not when the girl needed her. Taking a deep breath, Maria squared her shoulders, feeling a strength within her that she didn't know existed. "Who are you?" She called into the shadows, the challenge in her voice surprising even herself. "What do you want with her?" The figure didn't answer, and for a moment, silence hung like mist in the air, thick and suffocating. Then, a shadow shifted and stepped into the dim glow of the streetlight. Maria's pulse quickened as a tall man emerged, his face obscured by the brim of a worn-out hat. "Just a concerned citizen," he sneered, his gaze flicking between Maria and the little girl. "What's it to you? She's a child." Maria shot back, every ounce of maternal instinct coming alive within her. "You can't just leave her here." The man laughed, a harsh sound that echoed ominously in the stillness of the alley. "You don't know anything about her. She's trouble, and so are you." Maria felt anger surge within her. "No, you're the one who has trouble. She needs help, and I want to let you hurt her." With each passing second, the weight of the moment grew heavier. David pressed against her side, his tiny body trembling. The little girl's eyes darted between Maria and the man, searching for safety but finding none. "Is this really how you want to play it?" he asked, his voice low and threatening, stepping forward. "For all you know, I could make your life a whole lot worse." Before Maria could respond, she felt a gentle squeeze on her hand. It was the little girl. "Please, don't be scared," she said, her voice small but steady. "They're not going to hurt us, are they?" The innocence in her question ignited a fire within Maria. She looked down at the girl, at the determination shining through her tear-streaked face. "No one is going to hurt us," Maria reaffirmed, her voice stronger now. "Not while I'm here." The man narrowed his eyes, and an uncomfortable silence stretched out, thick with tension. Maria could see in his gaze that he was weighing his options. With a sudden movement, he turned and yelled back into the darkness, "You're wasting your time, girl. This alley isn't safe for you." "Then let's leave together," Maria declared, feeling a wave of courage wash over her. "You can't take her from here. No more hiding." David's grip relaxed as he found a sliver of hope in her words. She noticed Mrs. Thompson shuffling closer, eyes flickering with both fear and support. In that moment, it became clear, the fight was for all three of them. This little girl may be a stranger, but she was connected to them through the shared experience of vulnerability. Something monumental hung in the air, an unspoken bond forged in crisis, and then, with a flash of determination, Maria took the first step forward, ready to shield them both from uncertainty. "What will you do now?" she asked, looking the man squarely in the eye, waiting for an answer that might determine their fate. As the shadows around them shifted, he hesitated, and Maria couldn't shake the feeling that the answer could change everything. What lay beyond those shadows, and would they be strong enough to face it together? The man's laughter faded into a low growl, his presence now more imposing than ever. Maria's heart raced as she tried to gauge his response, each second stretching like an eternity. She felt the air thicken around them, almost as if the universe was holding its breath. "You really think you can challenge me?" he scoffed, taking another step forward, the dim light highlighting the hard lines of his face. Fear bubbled up, but she pushed it down, focusing instead on the little girl, who clung tightly to the blanket wrapped around her. "Please, tell us what you want," Maria said, her voice barely above a whisper, but with an urgency that rang clear in the hush of the alley. The girl blinked up at her, eyes wide and shiny, fear mingling with hope, waiting for a sign that everything would be all right. "Why do you want her?" David asked, his voice small but surprisingly steady. Maria squeezed his hand, bolstering him as he seemed to summon courage from her. The man sneered, crossing his arms. "You really want to know? She's no ordinary child. She's special." Maria's heart sank at his words, blood rushing to her ears while her mind raced. "Special? What kind of special?" She had to keep her focus. "That doesn't give you the right to take her. You need to let her go." "That's cute," he replied, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "You think you can just swoop in and play the hero? In this world, heroes don't stand a chance." A flicker of uncertainty passed across his face, and Maria seized the moment. "Then let's change the world," she challenged, her voice firm now. "There are more of us who want to protect her than you know. You're outnumbered." The man paused, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Maria took a step closer, emboldened by the thought of standing together with David and the little girl. "We are not afraid of you. This is our community, and we will fight for one another. You think you can stop me?" he growled, though something in his tone softened, almost a hint of surprise at her audacity. "Yes," Maria declared, feeling the swell of determination. "We can. All three of us. You see this little girl?" She pointed to the girl, whose small face now lit up with a spark of hope. "She deserves a chance at life, away from threats like you." For a moment, the man seemed vulnerable, caught off guard by the conviction in her voice. But then he straightened, his bravado returning. "You have no idea what you're getting into. Stay out of it, or you'll regret it," he warned, the menace creeping back into his tone. As if the shadows were pulling him away, he turned abruptly and took a step back into the darkness. Maria felt a pang of fear as the shadows seemed to swallow him whole, but she steadied herself. "Don't let anyone scare you," she whispered to the little girl, pulling her closer. "We will keep you safe. You're not alone anymore." The girl nodded, the tears in her eyes starting to dry as a sense of belonging cascaded over her. But that glow of hope shattered as a sudden scuffle echoed from deeper within the alley. Maria's heart leapt. They weren't alone anymore, and instinct kicked in as danger loomed again. "Run!" she shouted to David and the girl, grabbing their hands, adrenaline surging through her veins. The time for courage wasn't over. But would they be able to escape the dangers lurking in the shadows, or would the fight come to them? Maria tugged David and the little girl down the narrow alley, her pulse pounding in her ears. Panic took hold as they dodged crates and trash cans, the world blurring around them in a whirl of frightened breaths and pounding footsteps. "Keep up!" she barked, glancing over her shoulder. Shadows loomed large behind them, unclear figures mixing with the night. Every instinct screamed for her to run faster, but she couldn't leave David and the girl behind. They had to stick together. "Where do we go?" David gasped, his small hand barely able to keep up with her grip. "Just keep moving. We'll find a way out." The little girl, trembling in her blanket, let out a small whimper. "I want my mommy." Maria's heart twisted at the sound. This child was so young, and she was surrounded by darkness and danger. "We'll get you to safety," Maria promised, forcing herself to sound brave, even as fear threatened to crack her facade. As they rounded a corner, Maria barely had time to react. A figure blocked their way, tall and dark. Her heart sank as recognition washed over her. It was the man from before, but he wasn't alone. Two more figures flanked him, imposing silhouettes that seemed to grow with each passing second. "Where do you think you're going?" The man growled, a sinister smile creeping across his face. "Run!" Maria shouted, her voice rising above the encroaching darkness. She shoved David and the girl back the way they came, hoping to buy time. But the three threats closed in all around, and there was nowhere else to go. With her back against the brick wall, Maria felt a surge of defiance. "You won't take her!" she yelled, standing tall despite the trembling in her legs. "Why not?" "She's ours." "You don't understand what she is." He spat, the rage in his eyes burning like a wildfire. "Do you think that matters?" "She's a child." Maria shot back, the words spilling from her heart. "You can't own someone like that." In that moment, the little girl slipped from Maria's side, clutching the blanket as she stepped forward. "I want my mommy," she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Maria's heart shattered at the sound. It was a call that sought comfort, protection, a simple wish for safety among the chaos. The man hesitated, his anger faltering for a split second as if something buried deep within him stirred. Maria seized the opening. "You know this isn't right?" she urged, her voice softer now. "You can't keep her from the love she deserves." For what felt like an eternity, the man remained still, uncertainty flickering across his menacing features. Then, with a snarl, he looked away. "You think this is about love? You know nothing." But even as he spoke, Maria felt a shift. It wasn't about love for him, it was about power. And it was then that she realized this wasn't just a battle for the girl's freedom, but for the very soul of humanity itself. Before she could react, one of the accomplices lunged forward. In a flash, Maria pushed the girl behind her and braced for impact. Time seemed to slow as she prepared to defend everything she held dear, her heart a pounding drum of resolve. But just as the world had narrowed to a singular moment of impending chaos, another figure emerged from the darkness, intervening in a burst of unexpected ferocity. "Get back!" the newcomer shouted, swinging a shimmering object, something metallic that gleamed under the faltering light of a distant street lamp. Maria's eyes widened in disbelief. Who was this brave figure stepping into the fray? Would they be the allies she so desperately needed? The alley erupted into chaos, and she felt her breath catch in her throat, wondering if this was one last chance or just the beginning of an even tougher fight. The newcomer charged forward with a fierce determination, blasting light into the shadows. Maria felt an odd mix of hope and confusion as she took in the figure, a tall woman with a fierce gaze and a sword that glimmered as if it were alive. "Stand back," the woman shouted again, her voice steady as steel, and Maria felt an unexpected rush of relief wash over her. The man's men briefly recoiled, awareness of the new threat etched across their faces. "What is happening?" David's tiny voice broke through the noise, his grip tightening on Maria's shirt. She turned to him, heart racing, and crouched down. "Stay close to me, okay?" The little girl, still trembling, looked up at the sword-wielding woman, a hint of awe lighting her tear-streaked face. "Who is she?" the girl whispered, awed in the midst of chaos. "An ally, I hope," Maria replied, glancing back at the writhing shadows before them. The moment hung heavy in the air, a fragile thread woven with fear and uncertainty. "Explain yourselves. You're trespassing," the woman yelled, her tone authoritative, her eyes narrowing at the trio of men. The leader's confidence seemed to drop, and the moment stretched, tension coiling like a spring. "Who do you think you are?" The man spat, recovering swiftly, his bravado back in place. "You think you can just come in here, play hero?" "I am no hero," she replied coldly. "But I won't let you take anyone else." An electric silence filled the alley, thickening the air with unsaid truths. Maria could see the flickers of doubt dancing in the eyes of the henchmen, then they exchanged glances, calculating their next move. The newcomer stepped forward, her presence like a mountain, steady and unyielding. "Choose wisely," she warned, raising her sword slightly, its edge catching the remnants of light. "Walk away now, and this won't have to get messy." A low, angered growl escaped the leader as he glanced back to his accomplices. Maria held her breath, her heart pounding in tandem with the little girl's shallow gasps. She could sense the hesitation that hung in the air like damp fog, it clung to them all, then, in a moment of sudden madness, the man lunged. Maria's instincts kicked in, she shoved the children aside and braced for impact. The clang of metal rang out, a shockwave coursing through her from the clash of steel as the newcomer met the attacker head-on. "Stay back!" the woman shouted amidst the sounds of battle. Maria's heart raced, knowing she had to protect David and the girl, yet her gaze remained fixated on the clash. It was a dance of primal instincts, swift and brutal, every move calculated against the backdrop of rising fear. "Look!" David cried, pointing toward the end of the alley. Another path opened in the shadows, a way out. "We can go that way." Maria's mind raced. Would it be wise to flee? But how could she leave this courageous stranger behind? A flash of light emerged again as the newcomer pushed back against the man, creating a brief opening. "Go. Now." The woman called to them, her voice cutting through the chaos, heart in her throat. Maria grabbed David's hand and pulled the little girl along, ready to sprint toward freedom. But before she took a step, the man swiveled back, eyes blazing with fury. "You're not getting away that easily." The breath caught in Maria's chest as he lunged again, this time towards the children. Time slowed. Would this brave woman deflect him in time? The moment between safety and loss hung heavy in the air. Would they find a way out? Would they survive this night? With that question echoing in her mind, Maria's legs felt leaden, but she knew they couldn't stand still. They had to run. As they broke into a desperate sprint, the alley morphed into a blur of unrecognizable shapes, her heart pounding with a fierce mix of adrenaline and hope. But where would they end up? And who would emerge victorious from this clash? Just as a new twist unfurled, regret washed over her. What had she surrendered to protect them? And would the cost be higher than she had imagined? The moment they burst into the wider street, Maria felt like she had left a nightmare behind, but her heart still thundered in her ears. The chaos of the alley faded, replaced by an unforgiving darkness that loomed around them, but she was driven by the instinct to protect. She looked down at David, his blue eyes wide, filled with fear and uncertainty. The little girl clutched her hand tightly, her small fingers trembling. "Where do we go?" David whispered, his small voice cracking. Maria's gaze darted around the street, searching for a safe place, but all she saw were looming shadows and flickering streetlights that barely pushed back the dark. "Anywhere but here," Maria replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Keep running." They pressed on, the sounds of the alley fading, but the image of the fierce newcomer stayed with her. The woman had wielded that sword with such fierce determination, like she had something to prove. Could they find her again? Was she safe now? A sudden noise behind them caused Maria to stumble. David and the girl followed suit, their feet catching on the uneven pavement. Maria whirled around, half expecting to see the man pursuing them, rage still blazing in his eyes, but the street was empty. Just an echo, she told herself. Just their breathing fluttering in the night air. Maybe we should go back. The little girl's voice trembled, almost lost in the silence. Before Maria could respond, there was a flash of movement, a shadow darting in the corner of her vision. Panic surged through her veins. "Stay close," she commanded, pulling David and the girl within the shelter of her arms. From the darkness, the sword-wielding woman appeared, breathing hard, but standing tall, her eyes scanning the area. "You made it," she exclaimed, relief washing over her strained features. Her presence anchored Maria, grounding her emotions that had been tossed about in the storm of fear. "Are you hurt?" Maria's voice shook as she took in the newcomer's disheveled appearance. There were scrapes along her forearms and she had a bruise forming on her jaw, but determination sparkled in her eyes like the blade she held. "No. Just a scratch." The woman waved a hand dismissively, but her gaze softened as she knelt before the children. "Are you two okay?" Maria could see the woman had a special way with kids. It was the compassion in her tone. The fierce warrior turned protector. David nodded, but the little girl remained silent, still shaken. "Thank you for saving us," Maria said, her voice just above a whisper. She felt an unspoken bond beginning to form, grounded in shared survival and the promise of safety. "If we're all safe, now we need to move," the woman replied, rising. "They won't stop chasing us. It's not over yet." Just as those words left her lips, the shadows shifted, coalescing into forms that were all too familiar. The men from the alley had regrouped, anger radiating off them like heat waves. The leader cracked a sinister grin as he pointed toward them. "There they are. Get them." Maria's breath caught. In that moment, she felt the weight of the world press down on her once again. They could try to escape, but there would be no guarantee of safety. And if they stood and fought, what if they lost everything? Her heart hammered in her chest, uncertainty swirling within her. Could they trust the woman to lead them to safety? Or would her presence only put them in more danger? The reply loomed large in the room of her thoughts. What now? She wondered, feeling the fear clawing at her insides. With the enemy advancing, Maria realized they were once again at a crossroads. Would they fight, or would they flee deeper into the dark? A different kind of courage sparked inside her. Should she take a stand for her children, or run into the night? One thing felt clear in this moment of uncertainty: bravery comes in many forms. The heaviness of the moment hung thick, but Maria felt a shift deep within her. She glanced at David, his eyes wide but trust illuminating his gaze. The little girl beside them trembled, yet something profound flickered in those glistening eyes, a connection built through their shared horrors. No more hiding. They wouldn't let fear dictate their fate. "Stand back," the woman commanded, wielding her sword with precision. The three men prowled closer, but she didn't flinch. Maria felt the power of that decision bubbling inside her. It wasn't just about survival, it was about fighting for what was right. For the girl. For David. For all of them. Together. Maria shouted, clenching David's hand tighter as the three of them positioned themselves next to the warrior. Each child showed resolve beyond their years, fear transforming into determination, invigorating her spirit. As the men advanced, their intent clear in the sharpness of their grins, Maria stepped forward. "You won't take any of us?" she challenged, steeling herself, feeling the surge of bravery wash over her. She wasn't just a maid anymore, she was a mother, ready to stand firm against a storm. "Foolish." The leader snickered, lunging forward, but Maria was ready. Her feet planted firmly, she shouted, "No one gets hurt." Even as shadows threatened to engulf them, she felt the warmth of solidarity, the urge to protect and defend. Suddenly, the warrior swung her sword, the blade cutting through the air like a lightning strike. Maria marveled at her precision, watching as she blocked the man's path with a fierce glow of intent. The three men paused, uncertainty flickering in the dim light. Then, as if a dam had broken, the crowd of neighbors who had gathered outside began to step forward. Their murmurs grew into shouts of support, rallying behind Maria and the woman, showing up when it mattered most. She's right. They'll not harm anyone here. A voice boomed from the back, a neighbor stepping forward, fueled by adrenaline. The community's presence swelled in that moment, emboldening Maria further. You're outnumbered. She shouted, her voice steadier now as if every word pressed against the men like a shield. Gasps swept through the air. Just when doubt threatened to creep in, the weight of unity pushed against the oppressive force, and Maria felt a surge of hope. Get back! Commanded the warrior, eyes blazing as she prepared to fight again, but now, she wasn't alone. Neighbors joined in, some stepping in front, their eyes set aflame with protective instinct. The lead man faltered again, facing not just a mother defending her children, but a united community that refused to let fear dictate their lives. Heroes didn't wear capes, they stood side by side, ready to battle for one another, and just like that, the tide turned. With a new spirit, the men realized they weren't going to win this fight. The leader's bravado fell away, replaced by bewildered anger. This isn't over. He spat before retreating into the shadows, his companions hesitating before following, lost and defeated. As silence fell in the alley, the night air filled with something vibrant: friendship, courage, solidarity, a symphony of strength that echoed through every heart present. Maria turned to face the warrior, gratitude spilling out. Thank you, she breathed, feeling tears well up in her eyes, tears of relief, joy, and the overwhelming weight of the moment. The warrior nodded, lowering her sword. You did this. You found the strength when it mattered. David and the little girl bounded up, their laughter mingling with the cheers of the neighbors. The little girl clung to Maria's side, and in that instant, Maria realized they had forged a bond that went beyond fear. They were a family, even if they hadn't been related by blood, and as the stars glimmered above, Maria felt a promise settle in her heart. Together, they would rise above the struggles. Together, they would succeed in building a life where love conquered fear. No more hiding. No more running, she declared, her voice a steady beacon against the cool night. The children cheered as the neighbors gathered close, radiating warmth, love, and a vibrant new sense of community. Sisters and brothers united against shadows. Now was a time for rebuilding, for healing. Home was no longer just a place, it was these connections woven through shared struggles and successes. Maria looked around, her heart swelling with hope. They could face anything together. The journey had been long, filled with storms and uncertainty, but now they marched forward, ready to embrace a new dawn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel with these actions.